Hey everyone, Pal here, and welcome back. It's time for another Star Citizen video, and today I wanted to sit down and just go over the production schedule for 3.0. If you haven't been paying attention and missed this, you're not following the most recent news. On Friday, they sent out the updated 3.0 production schedule, and there's a lot here to go over. I want to cover some of the primary points, not everything, but there's some things that people are going to have overlooked. Now, before we dive into that, I just want to explain something in the background. The footage here, you might notice some weird, not artifacts, but the aspect ratio might be off. I'm trying some new things. So I've upgraded my computer. I'm now running a wide panel display. It's a 3440 by 1440 display. But YouTube wants 1920 by 1080. Unfortunately, my old capture software, Dxtory, was giving me trouble this morning. I don't know why. It would not pick up Star Citizen. So I'm still running the game at 1340 by 1440, but I captured it with Shadowplay at 1920 by 1080. I'm not exactly sure what it's going to do with the footage. I'll find out when you get, well, a little bit before you guys do, once I'm done rendering this video out and actually watch it. But you might notice things like the chat window in the wrong spot. It's all because the game's not quite scaling correctly with the wider resolution of the monitor. Yeah, that could be it. I'm still working. I'm going to try and fix it up. What I might end up having to do is when I play at the wide panel, but when I actually capture at 1920 by 1080, reduce the resolution, whatever. It doesn't really matter. Now on to today's main subject. Yes, 3.0, we have a schedule. We have an estimated time of arrival in ETA on 3.0. And that's probably the best area to start off with this, is that's going to be the big information most people are going to talk about. The current ETA is June 29th. Okay, that's fine. This is kind of ballpark where I was actually expecting it to be. Now, I said in my 2017 video, I don't know, my channel's grown a decent bit since I put that video out. I said May-June time frame. I think I said mostly more June. So June 29th isn't that far off what I was expecting. And I don't mean this self-congratulatory wise, but, you know, some people, he had hinted at CitizenCon 2016, Chris Roberts had hinted early 2017 for 3.0. So some people had expectations January, February timeframe. My expectations were June, so this is pretty much hitting exactly where they were. Now, I still believe this June 29th, we're probably going to miss this date by, I would guess, 3 to 5 weeks. I think we're more looking late July is when it will actually come out, simply because the list of features that they're putting into 3.0 is extensive. There's a lot of content here. In fact, they released a 15-20 minute video at the same time as this schedule went out, simply to explain how hard it is to really plan these things out. There's so many different places things could go wrong. It'll be in the link if you want to check that out if you haven't seen it. So anyway, yeah, June 29th, though I think mid to late July is more realistic, maybe even into early August, simply because of how much is going into this. The other thing that's going to be big, and a lot of people seem to have overlooked this at first, but I think, I don't want to make a big deal out of it, but it is very much worth mentioning. 3.0 is launching without the planets. Now, that doesn't mean it's launching without planetary landing. It's just you're going to be landing on moons rather than the actual planets. So the big planet that we've been promised for a long time now, Crusader, and also, Hurston, have been pushed to 3.2.0. In 3.0, though, we are still getting 3 moons. Let me get your actual names for you. Scrolling through all this stuff. You have Yela or Yila, Selene or Selin, and Daymar, I think is how they're pronounced. And apparently these moons are pretty darn big. Take this with a grain of salt, but the way Chris Roberts described him was if you took every Star Citizen backer so far and put them on one of these moons, all equal distance apart, they would not be able to see each other. Now, is that because they're all 2 to 3 miles from each other, or is that because the render distance is only 80 yards? Who really knows? But that's what they said. I do think because we're still going to be limited in terms of player size in the persistent universe, Crusader, whatever you want to call it, since we're still going to be limited player size to, 32, maybe a little bit more, depending on what all they manage to get into this update, they're going to feel relatively sparse. You're not going to have to worry about running into too many people down on these planets unless you actively go looking to meet up with them. But it is worth noting, 3 moons, possibly a 4th. They do mention that they're trying to get, there's a large asteroid that was part of one of the stretch goals. It's essentially a moon-sized asteroid. They're trying to get that in for 3.0. They're just not sure it'll be ready to go. Now, the reasons for the planets not being in 3.0 is they had originally been working with another third-party company who was responsible for making the landing zones that were going to be on these planets. It's going to be ArcCorp and several others. And this isn't the ArcCorp we can currently visit. The one we can visit in-game is kind of a proof of concept for it. There was going to be an ArcCorp actually on the planet that you would land on. It would be a small mini city that you could go to. Apparently these landing locations are not ready to go, and that is why they're not putting the planets in right now. I'm not sure how much of that I buy. It seems like you would just put the planet in without the landing locations, and then once the landing locations were ready, you would patch them into the planet. But I've said many times, I'm no programmer, I'm no game designer, so maybe there's some flaw with that logic. Maybe not having the landing points on the planet breaks something with like the geometry of the planet or how the planet is calculated, which makes it impossible to land on without falling through or something. But it seems a little odd. It's a little weird. They are now doing all of those landing pads. They're no longer being done by a third-party group. They are now doing that in-house. They've hired something like 32 or 35 people to work on these different sites that will be on the planets. So that's one thing that's definitely going to annoy people. Yep, just moons. Personally, I'm okay with it. I'm not worried about so much how many places I can land. I'm more worried about seeing the tech working that allows me to land. For me, that's the bigger thing. Once the tech is in place that you can go ahead, launch in Crusader, get on a ship, fly up, go to a planet, go to a moon, planet, whatever, travel through atmosphere, land on, get out on your ship, get onto a Dragonfly and go. That proof of concept, that tech working, to me is more important than actually what location it is I'm landing on. And they do mention that they are going to have an early version of the atmospheric entry working in 3.0. So although Crusader might not be there, not Crusader, Hassan, whatever. I just said the PlanetSide 2 name. Although the planet itself might not be there, you'll be able to at least do the proof of concept tech will be working for it. So I'm okay with that personally. Some other things they've talked about that will be in Items 2.0. The initial iteration of Items 2.0 will be working, so this is going to be the ability to pick up and move small cargo containers, pick up pieces of armor, things like helmets, turn them around in your hands, put them back down and stuff. This is also going to be starting to be saved. They're starting to introduce some of the persistence, so when you log out, if your ship is damaged or your ammunition is consumed when you log back in, they want to have it that your ship is still damaged, your ammunition is consumed, things like that. They're starting to save your actual item assets to the game. For me, this is cool because this might mean maybe we can start saving weapon loadouts and things for ships, so every time I spawn in and change the guns on my ship, I don't have to reprogram what weapons go to which loadout. I'm looking forward to that. This will also include things, the item 2.0 also is your interaction, so interacting with the different like control panels around the space stations inside your ship. It'll also be like your interactions on the Caterpillar. If you've seen my Caterpillar video, on the front nose of the Caterpillar, that front opening, that door is supposed to have another option. You're supposed to be able to open and close it, but then also lower it down like a loading dock to the bottom. And that's not available right now because you can't scroll through. This should add in the ability to scroll different options on different things you're adding. So that's all pretty cool. They've also talked the beginning of Subsumption is being added in. Now, this is the AI that is being put in to do the randomization, the variety within the mission system. So this is that. So every mission doesn't seem exactly the same. While you might get a mission go to, I don't know, crash site A and do it for X reason, looking for this. This will take into account and throw some variety in there. And this is only the first implementation of it. It should grow over time, but it's the beginning concept of the AI that is going to be controlling the mission system. I also think Subsumption, and correct me if I'm wrong here, I think this is also tied in with the AI NPCs. There's some small mention of them as in use with AI guns, so apparently Crusader is going to be getting turrets that these AI NPCs can get in and man its initial run on that. I think that's tied to Subsumption, but that might be a different AI. Let me know if I'm wrong on that. But they do mention a little bit about that. They've talked about some new ships that are going to be going in. Well, somewhat new ships. So the Cutlass Black is back, and I'm super happy about this. I'm a big fan of the Cutlass Black. I did a video on this ship probably about 5 months ago now, and aesthetically, conceptually, I loved the Cutlass. But I had a real tough time recommending it because the role it was designed to fill, the Freelancer did basically everything it did and better at $10 more. It was more durable, had better firepower, had more cargo space, all of these things it did. Seeing the rework of this has me really excited. I would love to be impressed by the reworked Cutlass Black and put one of them back in my fleet. As conceptually, visually, I love this ship. It was so broken with where it was supposed to fit. I'm scrolling. You can probably hear the mouse wheel going here. I'm trying to find where all the ships were. They've also added the Constellation Aquila is going in for 3.0, which is, I believe, the exploration version of the Constellation. There's too many variants of that ship. I think the Aquila is the exploration one. There's going to be the Dragonfly. There's also going to be the Ursa Rover and the Misk Prospector. I just found the part on the article I was supposed to be reading. So yeah, we're looking at the Dragonfly and the Ursa Rover for ground-based vehicles. We're looking at the Cutlass Black coming back in. We're looking at the Constellation Aquila and the Misk Prospector. They've also redone some of the Star Marine weapons, so the Devastator Shotgun, Arrowhead Sniper Rifle, and the Gallant Rifle have all been reworked. I'm not exactly sure what's changed, but they're being reworked in some way. They're also adding in the Scourge Railgun and the P8SC. I don't know what that is, but it's some type of Star Marine weapon. The Prospector does bring up something a little odd, so things that seem to be missing from this schedule. I don't see mining on it. I don't see mining anywhere on it for 3.0, 1, or 2. Now, the Prospector going in is a good sign. We already know that they're putting in items 2.0 in order to be able to work things, but I don't see anywhere where they talk about adding in the ability to mine moons, asteroids, things like that. It's possible it's included in something else that just isn't standing out to me. You know, when they talk about the different items and stuff, maybe it's part of that. They have items 2.0, operator seats, radar system. None of that makes sense. It's a little odd. I just don't see it in here. My guess is it will probably be there, just didn't show up in here, or I'm not seeing it, but it's probably going to be very basic to start off with. I would guess you're going to land on a moon, land on an asteroid, activate the drill on the front of the Prospector, and then you kind of sit back and probably watch a status bar fill up, and after 5, 6, 10 times of the status bar filling up, your inventory will be full. You'll take off, go fly somewhere to land, and sell it. I don't think it's going to be very in-depth, though that's just the first implementation of it. My guess is it will become more complex, more interactive as time goes on. Something else that is missing from the patch notes, not the patch notes, but the schedule report, no mention of the Delta Patcher. For those of you that don't know, the Delta Patcher is it's the patcher, but essentially it's going to be a new form of the patcher that doesn't require you to download the entire game every time there's a small change. What it'll do is it'll patch just the files that changed rather than basically reinstalling and downloading the entire game over and over again. This is something they've been talking about for 6 months, a year now, and it's apparently been tested. They're using it right now between the different offices for testing. I would have guessed it would have been in here, and maybe it's like part of one of these little lines that they have where they talk about the netcode or something. Not the netcode, but the backbone. Perhaps it's in there, or it's in the core tech. Let's see, planetary tech, solar system tech, entity update component shader, entity owner manager. No, that's the stuff for while your ships stay when you log out and everything. Yeah, I don't see it here, which is a little weird. Maybe it's just not ready to go, but the Delta Patcher would have been a great addition, especially because we're going to be updating this. I think the Delta Patcher is probably one of the most important things for future I don't want to say that. It would make future development, future patching and testing a lot easier. If you can go ahead and they could release a 2 gig update to the game, they would be able to do hot fixes and small change far quicker, rather than every 6 to 9 weeks releasing a big update that launches that everyone has to download 30 some gigs. They could on Friday release a quick hot fix update that patches 4 or 5 little small things, and you go and you download 800 megabytes worth of data. I think that would be good. It's a little odd that we don't see it here. What else do we need to go over? I think that's most of the main stuff. There's some small things in here about like updating the renders. There's a lot of talk about the different tech for the planetary landings and the little physics grids and all the different boxes and stuff. None of that I really feel we need to go over. It's just important. Does it work or doesn't it work? That's what we will find out. And a little bit of talk about insurance. Oh, they did say they're reworking their on one of these lists. I did see talk about player man turrets. They don't say what they're changing, but they do say player man turrets is being worked on. They expect it to be finished June 9th or so. I'm definitely interested to see that because there's a lot of ships out there with man turrets which are underperforming just because those turrets are not very good right now. They're hard to hit anything with. They just don't react well in the actual game. So it'd be interesting to see what this does. This could really change some mechanics around and mix up the current strength of the game in terms of ships going forward. Alright, I think that about covers it. I'll link to this article, or not the article, but the schedule down in the description below. The video for where they describe how long it's going to take things is at the very top of that. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Until next time, this has been Paller. Thanks for watching.